Hi everyone, it's Dom here and I have goodies from Google. I have the Pixel 4 and the Pixel 4 XL, aka the two most leaked phones ever. We're going to do a quick unboxing and show you what the phones are like and what the differences between the two are, though hint, there aren't very many. As you can see, we have the 4 and the 4 XL, both in black, sadly. Google sent us both phones in the standard black model, or I think it's just black. They also come in white, or clearly white, and also orange, though that's a limited edition, so if you want the orange one, you probably want to act fast and grab one early on, because I suspect that will not be around for the whole of the next 12 months. Okay, I will look at the smaller Pixel 4 first. So, peel these bits off. Get to the phone. Okay, here we have it. Back first, we can already see the square camera layout and the G logo. Otherwise, looks like a pretty black slab. I'll set that aside just for the moment and look what else we're going to get in with it. In here, we just have the SIM tool, a user guide, and safety and warranty stuff, so nothing super exciting. Down here, we have our USB-C to USB-C charging cable, and then if it wants to come out, oh no, it's all going wrong, USB-A to USB-C adapter, and then this, I'm guessing, is the charging brick, yeah. So then here we go, the charging brick, UK plug, obviously, that's why it looks odd and bulky if you're not from the UK. As you can see, that's a USB-C socket. USB-C to USB-C cable makes sense. One note on what's not here, there are no headphones. So as with the previous Pixel phones, there's no headphone jack on the Pixel 4s. So you are limited to USB-C or wireless headphones, but they have chosen not to include headphones in this box. In some markets, I think France and Australia, but maybe others as well, you will actually get USB-C Pixel Bud headphones in the box, but not in the UK, I'm pretty sure not in the US. So it depends where you are, you might get headphones with it. For us, we don't, and most places are not getting headphones. Okay, I'll move all that aside and get to the actual phone, which is what we're here for. So, peel that surprisingly sticky off. Okay, and then, oh, near dropped the phone. It's all good. Okay, there we go. So this is the smaller Pixel 4. As you can see, it's kind of a nice compact size. You can already see, even with the screen off, there's a fair bezel at the top, though not so much at the bottom, and it's a full bezel, not a notch. We'll get a better look when we turn it on. As for the rest of it, glossy black back. This is the black model again. The other thing you'll note that's a big change is it's a single sort of block of glossy material, of color. There's none of the two-pane design that they've had where it's sort of, say, slightly more matte up to here and then glossy at the top. It's all the same finish all the way down. Little Google G logo there. And then just the square camera layout, which we'll talk about in a little bit more detail in a sec. One thing you will notice is not here is a fingerprint sensor. But before you get your hopes up, that does not mean in-display fingerprint reading. It means no fingerprint reading. There is no fingerprint scanner at all on either Pixel 4 phone. It is face unlock or nothing. And then, yeah, final little sort of design notes. As you can see, it's a black border all the way around, which sort of slightly rubberized grip feeling, which is nice, like it feels quite secure. The power button is a little pop of white on this, and on the white and orange models, it's a pop of a slightly different color. So again, that kind of accent power button is back. USB-C port for charging, again, no headphone jack, and there are down-firing stereo speakers. And that is about it for the design. Oh, and the SIM tray, it is a single SIM phone, at least for the UK. There may be dual SIM models in other markets, I'm not sure, but for the UK at least, definitely just single SIM. Let's get the 4XL out, compare them, and then I'll get one of them turned on and start running through the setup so we can show you some of the actual software features and some of the camera stuff that's changed. So Everything else in the box is going to be the exact same. So I'm just going to move that out of the way. Here is the actual phone. Try not to drop it this time. There we go. Okay, again, plain black finish. As you can see from size, it's a pretty, noticeable size difference. It's a similar sort of size difference to what we've seen from the previous Pixel generations, but you will definitely notice the difference. That is sort of sometimes some phones, the jump between the regular and the Pro or the regular and the XL is kind of small enough that you almost feel like it doesn't matter. This definitely is the difference between a comfortable one-handed phone and one that's just about one-handed, but is probably more of a two-handed device. Otherwise, exactly the same. The same camera setup, the same black finish, same power button accents, everything is the same. So there are two important hardware differences between the 4 and the 4 XL, and they're the only two differences between the phones that you need to worry about other than size. One is battery. You're getting a 2800 milliamp hour battery in the regular 4 and a 3700 in the 4 XL. So obviously it's got to power a bigger screen, so that battery life, it's a bit hard to calculate how much better the battery life will be, but you should still see a better battery life from the XL model than from the regular one. And the other difference is the displays. So obviously they're different display sizes, but more importantly perhaps, they are also different display resolutions. So it's Full HD Plus on the 4, and it's Quad HD Plus on the 4 XL. So you're actually getting a lot more pixels. It actually then works out to a significant pixel density difference. This is 444 pixels per inch, and this is 537 pixels per inch. So you're getting a much denser pixel count in the display, much higher resolution. The display on this one should look noticeably better as we go through. We'll see how sort of obvious that is. I'll just rush through setup on them both. Okay, so here we go. The one other thing that's worth noting from a display perspective, which is the same between them both, is they're both OLEDs, they both got HDR support, but also they both have 90 Hertz refresh rates, which is really nice. So you may notice that is a very fast, very smooth animation. Even as I sort of move it quickly, it's totally fluid. There's no jaggedness to the movement. This isn't the first phone to have 90 Hertz display. The OnePlus 7 Pro and now the OnePlus 7T Pro and the OnePlus 7T have it. Quite a few of the gaming phones have had 90 Hertz or 120 Hertz refresh rates. But it is a bit of a surprise to see it popping up in the Pixel, but a really, really welcome one. 90 Hertz display tech is one of my favorite display innovations. One thing I actually want to play around with and see, that maybe we can get into the settings and find out, is whether you get manual control of it. Yeah, okay, this is what I feared. So the one downside is it's this sort of adaptive smooth display tech. So the option you get is that it will automatically raise the refresh rate to 90 Hertz for suitable content. What you can't do, as you can on, say, the OnePlus phones, is just set it to always be 90 Hertz. You don't get that option here. Obviously, there will be a battery life hit from that, and maybe Google is worried because the battery capacities aren't that great on either phone, and so they don't want to tank it with 90 Hertz. But yeah, you can't have it always be 90 Hertz. It will just turn on and off when the phone detects it will be of benefit to give you 90 Hertz. The other thing we noticed in here is ambient EQ. That's tech that Google added in the Google Home Hub, now Nest Hub. It's kind of similar to Apple's True Tone. It basically detects the environment and adjusts the color temperature of the display to match the kind of light levels in the surrounding area, which should mean it just looks a bit more natural and colors look a bit more realistic all the time. Right, so in terms of what's actually new in the phone beyond the hardware changes, there are basically three things that I'm going to focus on, and I'm just going to quickly go through some of the most exciting bits of each. So first up is the camera, which is always sort of the big draw of any Pixel phone. So if we get in, the big change obviously is on the back, where we've gone from the classic single lens on any previous Pixel phone to, for the first time, a dual lens rear camera. That might not sound like much when other phones are doing triple and quadruple lens cameras all the time, but still, going to two lenses is a big step for Google. The main lens is still pretty much the same as it was before. I think there have been some slight revisions, but it's still a 12 megapixel sensor, well 12.2 technically, and it's f1.7 aperture-wise. But the second lens is slightly different. It's a 16 megapixel telephoto that's f2.4, so it won't let in quite as much light. One thing you'll see when we go into the camera app is that you don't actually get a sort of chance to sort of hit specific zoom spots. It's more just that as you zoom, you get a zoom slider on the bottom, and there's a point out there where we switched lenses. It's kind of hard to tell, but I think you can just sort of see the color changes slightly just at that point, around 2 times. And that's where you hit the telephoto. So it's effectively a 2 times telephoto, I think, though Google hasn't sort of specified in those terms. It's mostly talked about the kind of focal lengths you'll hit, which range from 24mm up to 85mm effective focal lengths. But yeah, it's a telephoto. It's the chance to zoom in and have zoomed in photos look better than they ever used to. That's not a massive game changer, especially in sort of the days where now you can get sort of 10 times hybrid zoom from Huawei and makes like that. So the fact that this goes up to 8 times is good, but it's not the best around. But still, that kind of zoomed in shot together with the computational photography stuff that Google's best known for is kind of exciting. There are other changes beyond that second lens though. So if I tap here, we'll see there are now 2 brightness sliders. So up here is an overall brightness slider. Oh, lost it. So we've got an overall brightness slider, basically the same as it would have been before. But we also have a shadows brightness slider, which only affects the brightness of the darker parts of an image while leaving the brightest parts as on their own. So Google's calling this dual exposure, but it basically means that if you're taking photos with a really bright background and maybe a darker foreground, like say a portrait shot of someone against a sunrise or a sunset or something like that, you'll be able to make sure you get enough light on their face without messing up the colors of the background. And in any other circumstances where you have really different light levels in different parts of the shot, you'll be able to play around with them to basically sort of manually get a better HDR effect, which is pretty neat. Speaking of HDR, actually, one of the other changes is that the viewfinder has been improved so that there's live HDR in the viewfinder. One of the downsides of the Pixel cameras before is that because so much of the best parts of the shot was done after you took the photo, you didn't always get a good sense of what it was going to look like before you took the photo. Now it should be closer to what the final product is going to be, though there's still more going on after you hit that button. The other thing is night sight. I can't test it right here. As you can see, the studio is not super dark. Night sight has had a few improvements. Partly it's just been improved so that it will handle dark skies better and get the colors a bit better on sky shots. I haven't had a chance to test it yet. The bigger new mode is called astrophotography. I believe it will be activated by hitting that little shot of a moon. Oh no, that's just the shutter button. I'm an idiot, apparently. There's an astrophotography mode. It's part of night sight. I'm not sure exactly how you activate it. I think it maybe actually can just tell when you're pointing at the night sky. That's what I was told in my pre-brief. So hopefully that's how it works. I'm in London, which means there's light pollution, and taking photos of the stars is going to be incredibly hard. But basically, this is a ultra long exposure mode that combines multiple long exposure shots to get some really good photos of stars, galaxies, the moon, all that kind of stuff that normally a phone could never photograph in any particularly convincing way. The downside is you will need a tripod or something stable to rest the phone on, because the exposures could take as much as 4 minutes or longer. So you can't do it holding it in your hand. It will not be steady enough to get good results. Other than that, the camera stuff is pretty much the same as it was. Nothing else has changed radically, which makes this feel like a small step forward, despite the big move of the second lens. Actually, in terms of like the main shots you're going to take, nothing here is radically new compared to the Pixel 3, where the camera was so good. So the Google Assistant is baked directly into the OS, which means better integration with apps, so it can bring up specific Instagram pages, Twitter pages, things like that. You've also got a new way to activate it, which is a corner swipe, like that, but we'll just leave it. I can't test it right now because this is a pre-release bit of hardware and that bit of the software hasn't been baked into it yet. I've tried it at a pre-brief where you can sort of dart around getting Google to bring up specific Twitter pages, then Instagram pages. You can use continued conversation to dive between apps really easily. It's very fast, it's very fluid, and we're going to be putting together some video content specifically on that very soon, I hope. And finally, the other stuff is motion controls, which have been added in. So there are a few. One of the main ones is to do with the always-on display, which you can see there. basically it will now detect presence. So if there's no one nearby, it will just turn the always on display off because there's no one to see it anyway, thus saving a battery. Okay. One of the other ones, it detects whether you reach for the phone. And what it does is it basically primes the face unlock sensors, which, remember, are the only way to access this phone other than a PIN or a pattern because there's no fingerprint. So it primes the face unlock sensors if it detects gestures that suggest you'll want to use face unlock. So, in theory, if I just reach and pick the phone up and bring it up, it's there. It's face unlocked already. It's instant. It was before I could even explain that it was about to do face unlock. So it gets the sensors ready to go so that by the time the phone is actually facing your face, everything is on, everything is ready, all the software is sort of primed, and then bam, it gets you in straight away. That does ease the pain of losing the fingerprint because it makes this one of the fastest face unlocks around. I'm looking forward to testing it, seeing how reliable it is, different lighting additions, stuff like that, whether it can handle dark rooms, etc., etc. But if it's reliable enough, this could really improve things because it will just make it that much faster. And the final thing is traditional gesture controls. Like we've seen in other devices like the LG G8, all of this stuff is based on radar rather than a camera, which Google says makes it more reliable. But the actual functionality baked into this stuff is fairly similar. So it's things like skipping through songs. So if I play some music, I can then wave over to go to the next track, or go back the other way. You can do the same thing with answering phone calls or muting phone calls, dismissing alarms, stuff like that. Just that simple hands-free controlling that you may want to use, I don't know, first thing in the morning when your alarm goes off, if you're listening to music while you're cooking and your hands are messy. It's still kind of a niche use case. It's actually turned off by default though, and you can just leave it off if you never want to use it. It's called Motion Sense, but yeah, super optional. I will probably turn it off once I'm done reviewing the phone, but we'll see. So yeah, that is the Pixel 4 and Pixel 4 XL in the flesh. We will be playing around with these, reviewing them. We're going to have some more video. We have a big camera comparison coming up where we're going to pit the Pixel 4 up against the iPhone, one of the iPhone 11s, and also the Galaxy Note 10. And we're going to see which of those big three flagships has the best camera right now and whether that telephoto is going to give the Pixel 4 an edge that it didn't have before. So remember to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell to make sure you get alerted to all of our videos, and keep an eye out for more to come from us. And let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the new Pixel phones or any suggestions for what we should be doing with them. Thanks.